Caroline Levitt. And one more thing before I close, because I really have some meetings to go to, and then I'll see you at the executive order signing this afternoon. I just wanted to say that you reminded me of the situation in California and North Carolina. Those people continue to have a special place in our hearts. The President and this administration are committed to making sure that those people get the funding they need. And I want to send a clear message to those Democrats who are feigning outrage at the long list of quote-unquote stuff that this administration is getting rid of. We're cutting federal spending on things that don't make sense. $2 million for gender reassignment surgeries in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million for a new season of Sesame Street in Iraq, $4.5 million to fight disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on, and I'm happy to give the full list to anyone who wants it. Democrats are supposedly outraged that Americans want their tax dollars to go to good causes and not to things like this. But they're quietly leaving out the fact that there are still people in North Carolina and California who have lost literally everything and the federal government hasn't helped them for the last 4 years. This president is going to continue to put Americans first. And when you look at the progress we've made so far this week, it speaks for itself. And it's only Wednesday. Garrett, it's good to see you today, thank you. Journalist Garrett. On the situation in Gaza. The president has spent virtually his entire political career opposing interventions abroad, opposing nation building in foreign countries and sending American troops abroad, especially to the Middle East. And this initiative seems like it could end up including all of that. Can you explain why he has changed his mind so abruptly? And how does building and owning Gaza fit into his America First agenda? Caroline Levitt. I disagree with the premise of your question, that this decision forces the United States into conflicts abroad. The president has not said he will send troops to Gaza. He has also said that the United States is not going to pay for the reconstruction of Gaza. The administration is going to work with our partners in the region to do the reconstruction. Let me back up a bit and remind you that President Trump has always been an outsider, which is why Americans elected him. His goal is to bring lasting peace to the Middle East for everyone in the region. As I said in my opening remarks, for decades the same people have been proposing the same solutions, and it has become crystal clear to the president. The United States needs to be involved in this reconstruction to ensure stability for everyone. But that doesn't mean we're going to have troops on the ground there, or that American taxpayers are going to foot the bill. It does mean that Donald Trump, the greatest dealmaker on the planet, will make a deal with our regional partners. Journalist Garrett. But yesterday he did not rule out the possibility of introducing American troops into Gaza? Does that mean you are ruling it out now? Caroline Levitt. I am saying that the president has not yet taken on such commitments. He has not confirmed this definitively, and you know it yourself. Journalist Garrett. As for foreign partners, the Jordanians, Egyptians and Saudis have already criticized the plan. Which foreign partners, if any, have expressed interest in participating? Caroline Levitt. The president said he had been thinking about this for some time. He made it clear in his statement yesterday that this was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. He has already spoken to President Ali, his first call to a foreign leader, and he is meeting with King Abdullah of Jordan next week. He has spoken with the King of Bahrain, and he has spoken with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. The president has made it clear that he is particularly looking to Egypt and Jordan to temporarily take in Palestinian refugees so that we can rebuild their homes. Let me show you some footage from Gaza that was shown on Fox News. It is, as they said, apocalyptic. Without water, without electricity, people simply cannot live there. The president's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, recently went to Gaza, filmed it all, showed it to the president, describing how dire the situation was. And the president made this decision based on humanitarian considerations, thinking about everyone in the region. Journalist. Thank you, Caroline. Is it true that someone in the administration is preparing to literally fight Democrats in the streets? Caroline Levitt. Of course not. Thank you for asking. Some elected Democrats are so pissed off about DOJ that Congresswoman Monica McIver has said, We are at war. Eleanor says we could actually see someone get killed. And Chris Van Hollen says we need to fight this in Congress and in the streets. Let me tell you, if Republican leaders in the Capitol had said anything like that, something that called for violence, everyone here would have been furious. That kind of talk from Democrats is unacceptable. In fact, they don't even seem to understand what's going on. President Trump ran with a mandate from the people to make government more efficient. He traveled around the country with Elon Musk, telling everyone that Elon would be heading up a new agency to clean up government spending. Together, they and their team look at every line item in the budget to make sure taxpayers' money is spent wisely. And now, Democratic politicians are inciting people to violence and bringing them into the streets. It's deeply disturbing, and they must be held accountable. Journalist. It seems that the Democrats are particularly concerned about the fact that DOJ engineers have access to the Treasury systems. Can you clarify, do these engineers only have read access, not write access? So they can't change the code? Caroline Levitt. Yes, they only have read permissions, they can't make changes to the code, right? Journalist. One more question. NBC reports that some of the illegal immigrants we saw detained were not deported. They were given electronic ankle or arm bands or required to be monitored by phone regularly. Does this mean the administration is detaining more people than it can accommodate? Caroline Levitt. Yes, I saw those reports. I'm glad you asked, because we wanted to clarify. As of this morning, according to DHS, of the more than 8,000 people detained since President Trump's inauguration, 461 undocumented people have been released, less than 6%. Reasons for release range from there being no realistic prospect of deportation in the foreseeable future, to a lack of space in detention centers. We've talked about this many times. We have limited space for detainees, to serious medical circumstances. None of them have a final order of deportation, and many are likely disputing their status. For more details, contact DHS. But I specifically asked for these numbers, knowing you would ask. Journalist. The President and you again emphasized today that because of the massive destruction, the Palestinians allegedly have no choice but to leave Gaza. However, the Palestinians themselves say that this is their home and they do not want to leave. But yesterday the President said that he is prepared to use military force if necessary. Is the United States really prepared to expel the Palestinians from Gaza by force? Caroline Levitt. The President is committed to rebuilding Gaza for the Palestinians and all those in the region who want peace and real economic development. This is a territory that was controlled for years by Iranian-funded terrorists called Hamas. They terrorized not only Israelis, but Palestinians as well. It is because of Hamas that we see the terrible images of destruction that they launched their brutal attack on Israel on October 7th. President Trump wants this to be a region where all people can live in peace. He is the #1 peacemaker, as he has proven in his first term. How to achieve this goal? The President and his team are currently negotiating with our allies. Journalist. But shouldn't the Americans be prepared for the possibility that our troops might be there, conducting a ground operation against Hamas? Caroline Levitt. The President has not confirmed the introduction of American troops. But I repeat, he has not ruled out this possibility. He has not yet made a final decision. Journalist. Why not just say that U.S. troops will definitely not be sent? After all, the President himself has been criticizing endless wars for years. Caroline Levitt. The President is a master negotiator, and in order to maintain a position of strength, he is not going to cut off any options in advance. This gives him leverage in negotiations. Journalist. But he said that everyone loves this plan. And yet, in Jordan it was called a declaration of war on the Arab world, and even some Republicans in Congress are skeptical. How can he say that everyone loves this plan? Caroline Levitt. King Abdullah of Jordan is coming here next week, and after their meeting I will be able to give you more precise information about what compromise they reached. I will note that many leaders around the world once doubted President Trump's ability to make deals, but the reality speaks for itself. For example, the leader of Panama said he would not accept the concessions he has now agreed to thanks to Secretary Rubio's visit. The president of Colombia said he would not allow charter flights carrying Colombian illegals to return home, but those flights are already taking place. Words are one thing, actions are another. Journalist Dasha. Caroline, you said the president has been working on this idea for a long time. Is there a written plan for Gaza based on his proposals? When was it drawn up and who was involved? Caroline Levitt. This plan was outlined yesterday when the president addressed the country and the world. His team is continuing to work. I saw the National Security Advisor this morning, and he has a busy schedule of calls. They are continuing to actively discuss the details with our partners, including Steve Witkoff. Journalist Mary. I have 2 questions about the news of the day. First, how will today's executive order affect the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles? For example, will a man who identifies as a transgender woman be able to compete in women's events in the United States? Caroline Levitt. Great question. The president has already said that he expects the Olympic Committee and the NCAA to no longer allow men to compete in women's sports. The executive order that the president will sign with his pen creates public pressure on these organizations to respect the rights of women and girls. This is a very popular position. Many outstanding female athletes have spoken out against such practices. The president has given them an opportunity to be heard at the highest level today at the White House. And he expects these organizations to comply with this federal order, which will be signed soon. Journalist Mary. Got it. What about the media coverage of this order that refers to transgender women as women? How does the White House feel about the ACLU, GLAAD, and other positions that refer to men as transgender women? Caroline Levitt. The policy of this administration is crystal clear. There are only 2 sexes, male and female. It's that simple. Journalist Brian Glenn. USAID is currently in the spotlight because taxpayers' money was allegedly used for some bizarre purposes. It seems that some media outlets have come under this question. What does the president say about this? Caroline Levitt. Before I came out here, I learned that USAID was funding some media outlets, including Politico, who has a seat here in the room, by the way. I can confirm that over $8 million spent essentially subsidizing Politico subscriptions at the expense of American taxpayers will be terminated. The Doge team is already canceling those expenses. Again, we review literally every single expense across the federal government. The president and his team make a decision. Is this in the public interest? Is this a wise use of funds? If not, the funding is terminated. That will save taxpayers significant amounts of money. Journalist. Thank you. I'd like to give credit to the back rows. They say they are rarely asked. Reagan? Journalist Reagan. Thanks, Caroline. The White House Correspondents Association, WHCA, has announced that stand-up comedian Amber Ruffin, who has called the president a kid with his pants down, will be entertaining the crowd at their dinner this year. Is there a reaction from the White House? Will the president himself be there? Caroline Levitt. Interesting choice, yes. The invitation for the president is on my desk, and I have one myself. I haven't discussed it with him yet. When a decision is made, I'll let you know. Definitely an interesting choice for a comedian. I'll talk to the boss and see what we decide. Journalist. Thank you. Coming back to the decree that will be signed today. You said that it will be implemented. Can you explain to schools and the public how the administration plans to do this at the local level? Some human rights organizations claim that such measures discriminate against children. How will you respond to them? Caroline Levitt. I think there is already discrimination. Imagine young girls being forced to accept biological males in the locker room or on the field. It is unsafe and extremely unfair. And, by the way, very unpopular with most Americans. At the beginning of the briefing, I already listed what the order calls for. I can give you a copy of that memo. Share it with your audience so they understand. Journalist. What will happen to schools that refuse to comply with the order? Caroline Levitt. They will have to comply, because in an hour and a half it will become federal law. Journalist, Spectrum News. A word about Doge. Elon Musk is now a special government employee and owns companies that have billions of dollars in government contracts. You said he is acting within the law, but what steps is the administration taking to eliminate the conflict of interest? Caroline Levitt. The president already answered this question the other day. If Elon faces a conflict of interest regarding contracts and funding that Doge manages, he will remove himself from those contracts. And he complies with all applicable laws. Journalist, Left Row. Trade advisor Peter Navarro commented on the new External Revenue Service today and said, "We're going to collect a lot of tariff revenue and we're going to be able to cut taxes." Is that the official White House position? Will tariffs cut taxes for Americans? Caroline Levitt. The president has always been very clear that tariffs are a tax on foreign countries. He wants to reduce taxes for American citizens. He also thinks that tariffs are a great way to raise money for the Treasury. That's why he supports this new External Revenue Service. Personally, I think it's a great idea. Journalist, BBC. Can you confirm that under the president's plan, all Palestinians who want to stay in Gaza will actually be able to do so? Caroline Levitt. I can confirm that the president is ready to rebuild Gaza and temporarily resettle those who are currently there. Because, as I have shown many times, it is now a zone of complete ruins, without water and electricity. The president wants people to live in peace and security. He is determined to implement this bold plan. And we will inform you as news comes in.